Okay, so after you have discussed trauma-informed responses, let us now go to establishing limits using appropriate discipline. Okay, so are you ready? At the end of this module, the participant should be able to analyze which positive discipline techniques will assist in setting good boundaries with survivors. So, what are some of the factors affecting how we establish limits with children? We have, of course, cultural beliefs and then personal experience and how we grew up. Usually, that is the basis of most parents and caregivers, the mood that one is in. Of course, in terms of spirituality and the religious background, the faith that they believe in, the relationship with a survivor, and length of time a survivor has been in the shelter can also affect the boundaries and how discipline is enforced. So when we say we establish yung the in terms of control or the internal and external locus of control, so we look at the situation by looking at it in the following way. So basically, it can be from an internal or an external locus of control. So from the internal, so there is belief that I have control over the events of my life. Whereas if it is external, the belief is outside factors control events of my life. If it is development of strength of character, no, internally, or development is dependent on rules and regulations to make choices. Okay, so when we talk about locus of control, we talk about encouraging the individual to believe in their own abilities and then setting bedtime schedule so that there is routine, helping them in ways of resisting peer pressure and keeping them in the activities that they're supposed to do, and then supervising them, especially when they are doing their homework, talking to them about risky activities and explaining why they should avoid this if it is risky, and encouraging them to try again when they make mistakes. So basically learning from what they have experienced so that they can develop a sense of control. So what would be most effective is really not inflicting punishment, but establishing limits. If people are good only because they fear punishment and hope for reward, then we are a sorry lot indeed. So that is not effective. So what are the guidelines? So these are some of the guidelines that we can do. We have to set clear expectations. So when you say, oh, you're not supposed to do this, then we give an expectation that is very specific. So I don't like you to go out late. Maybe it will be good if you go home by 9 o'clock. So that's a very specific expectation. Allow time for new survivors to adjust to their new home environment because it takes about 3 to 6 months before one adjusts to a situation. Consider the reason behind the behavior. Usually, either it can be something that's physical, maybe they're in pain, or maybe they misunderstood it, or because of a previous experience, their interpretation may be different. And that when we, for example, talk about how we deal with conflicts, we can be a role model. So we say you have to not shout, but we are shouting. So do not tell a lie, but we are lying. So we have to show children the things that we are going to teach them. So the way we deal with conflict will also be the way they're going to deal with it. And very important in dealing with children is listening well. Listening not just with what they are saying, but also with their emotions. We have to listen if they are afraid, listen to what they are not verbally telling us with their facial expression, with their behavior. And we individualize limits. So a parent could have several children. And the way they are limited or the behavior can be different for each of the children. And that even if they are younger, we have to respect them and we have to remain calm when dealing with children. And we have to match the consequences of breaking limits with behaviors. Okay. And we, in the end, build on their strengths and do emotional coaching, and that would help them to be more aware of their emotions and in order to deal with those emotions. So these are some of the ways by which limits can be established. One is active ignoring can be one. Time in or quiet time, we just let them, on the side. Active ignoring means, you can either go to the next topic or next behavior. So if there is a behavior that is not appropriate, you can just ignore it so that it's going to be extinct. And you can also limit a privilege, like for example, watching TV or maybe playing games. So we also make sure that we uphold human rights, that we know that children do have rights, like we shouldn't begrudge them of their rights, like going to school, be taking care of them. So we still have to care for their rights and make sure that there is food, shelter, and clothing. Okay, so it is important to be assertive and not aggressive. We have to remain calm and nonviolent at all times. Ensure that their rights are maintained, as I've said, no, with food, shelter, clothing, connection with people. So we basically teach survivors to take responsibility for their behavior, understand what they want from themselves, develop a plan to get uh, that without violating the rights of others, and think about their life choices. So we help them go through what they want out of life, their identity, sense of identity, who and what they are. Okay. And we teach them to have responsible thinking. So we do this through this process. Okay. So we, in a way, process by asking what they are doing so that we understand them, and then that they understand the rules, and then that they understand what is the consequence when they break the rules, and that they know or they are aware if that is what they would like to happen, and where they would want to be or what they want to do after that event, and what will happen. They should know what will happen if they do the same behavior again. Okay. So it is important for you to think which of these processes can actually help the children that you serve. So some examples for shelters are: the service provider walks in the room and the survivor was watching television before doing homework. What are you going to do? So the goal here is for the child to uh, you know, have study habits. And so we can use a TV as a privilege after they are able to study, or a survivor is refusing to clean his her room and assign chore. We can actually reward them with, let's say, TV or other privileges. The service provider walks into the room as one survivor begins to yell at another survivor. So we are calm, we role model, and give them time to at least manage their emotions and then talk to them afterwards. A survivor is talking loudly in her dorm room and disturbing the other survivors when it is time to sleep. So we practice trauma-informed care and see if this basically is the time when they were abused. Maybe they talk in order to ward off thoughts and their fears. So we help them calm down, do some relaxation, and then check what exactly upsets them if it is really related to what happened to them. Okay, so what was it like you? Okay, what was it like for you to use the responsible thinking process, no, when you practice? I'm sure you've practiced some of this already. So how might you consider applying this process that you have learned so far in your work? So I want you to rethink what I have said and see how you can apply them. So it is important to set limits, but it is also important to recognize the value of structure and expectations, and that all behavior has meaning, but not all behavior is because of a trigger, and it can be because of some other reasons, and so we have to find out, and that appropriate expectations and structure are critical factors to implementing trauma-informed care. Okay, so with that, thank you very much, and a pleasant day to all of you again.